The ending of Spider-Man Brand New Day teases some major changes for the MCU. Here's what it all means for Peter, Doomsday, and the universe as a whole. Spoilers ahead. There are a lot of separate threads in Brand New Day that ultimately come together for the climax. For one, there's a mysterious villain roaming around, playing tricks on Peter, and manipulating people into carrying out attacks on a government organization called Damage Control. That mysterious villain goes one step too far when they take over MJ's body. After saving her life, Peter takes her to the Punisher's hideout for safety. There they figure out that the person behind all of this is Jean Grey, who's searching for something called VMAX. With the help of Frank's tools, Spidey makes some quick changes to his universal inhibitor and heads back to the city to corner her and attach the device before she causes any more destruction. That's easier said than done. She gets into the mind of Bruce Banner and makes him Hulk out, which is bad news for, well, just about everyone.
If you see me with this stuff, run.
Hulk's skin is too thick to get the inhibitor back on, but Peter smooth talks him into chilling out and then apprehends Jean with the inhibitor in just enough time for Damage Control to take her in. Before passing out, she says the name Sarah, which Department Director Bill Metzger recognizes as the same name that was on his mind when she inhabited him. Back at Frank's, MJ and Peter have an emotional confrontation after she discovers the letter detailing their shared past. They go to her apartment, but she reveals she doesn't have any memories from when she was under Jean's control. Of course, if she doesn't remember, it's pretty unlikely Metzger remembers either. Knowing that Bill Metzger has been lying, Peter goes to see Yelena in a bathhouse headquarters to try to figure out what's happening. Yelena's internet sleuthing reveals that Sarah is Jean's sister, who was previously taken in by Damage Control, with all records of both Sarah and Jean scrubbed from the internet following their respective captures. Peter returns to Damage Control's headquarters where they're holding Jean. At the same time, Jean discovers what VMAX really means. It's the chipped-off lettering still visible on a Ventmax label on the ceiling. In other words, she's in the same room where her sister was killed. In retaliation, she sends a power jolt to freeze people in the city and then freezes the hands to fight Peter, since they have the ability to counter his artificial web shooters. After an emotional talk with Jean in his head, Peter takes off his inhibitor to capture the hand in an organic web, which they don't have the tech to stop. He then allows her to enter his mind, where she has a heart-to-heart with Aunt May. It seems like they're about to reach a happy ending, except that Frank has been busy posting up with a sniper rifle. Frank takes a shot at Jean, and Peter jumps in front of the bullet to save her. At the hospital, Jean uses her powers to keep Peter alive, and while he's recovering, he spots his old pal Ned and gets him to do their secret friend handshake. You know, this one. Ned suddenly seems to remember his best friend, and then we cut to credits. Could the handshake change the Marvel Universe forever? Is a hint of a fond memory enough to break Doctor Strange's spell? You could look at it that way. After all, MJ and Spider-Man kiss on the rooftop after she's been possessed by Jean Grey. She has no recollection of that happening, even after Peter reveals it to her, which leaves the implication that the memories of Peter are still locked deep inside everyone, despite Strange's spell. You could point to the fact that Ned almost certainly knows that Peter is Spider-Man at that point. Remember, Peter visited MJ in Ned's apartment earlier in the movie in his full Spidey costume, but his identity slipped out when MJ said goodbye Peter as he flew off, immediately raising Ned's suspicions. Seeing the awkward guy from his housewarming party whose name he didn't remember, who clearly recognized him, could have led Ned to put two and two together to realize this was Peter beneath the mask. But that wouldn't explain how he remembered something as specific as a handshake. So the only answer is that there's something more going on. The identity of Sadie Sink's mysterious character was one of the worst kept secrets in Marvel. Introduced as a villain, we learn later on that her attacks on various damage control facilities across the city are an attempt to free her sister Sarah, who was kidnapped by Bill Metzger's team in broad daylight. With Peter knocking on death's door after getting punished by Frank's bullet, we don't focus too much on Jean's escape. Frank does later reveal she was using her powers to keep him alive and bring him out of his coma as a thank you though. The next time we see Jean, she's chilling on the same park bench where she sat with her sister just before she was taken away. After some quiet contemplation, she gets on a bus. Although no destination is shown, the rural, autumnal landscape she passes through has led some fans to theorize she's already making her way to Xavier Institute, famously located in Westchester County. We know a full X-Men reboot is on the way, but it might be a little while longer before we pick up that thread, considering that the Fox-era characters are getting a last hurrah in the upcoming Doomsday. Although we know characters from across the Marvel multiverse will meet, we expect they probably won't want to focus on recasting characters for this new generation of mutants before bidding goodbye to the old ones. One figure introduced here could play a significant part in the X-Men reboot is Tremel Tillman's Bill Metzger, the director of Damage Control.
We are faced with a danger that we can't control. One we can't even see.
The character isn't affiliated with Damage Control in the comics, where the institution remains focused on cleaning up the mess caused by superhero battles. He only appears in the X-Men comic storyline Children of the Atom, where he's introduced as a vocal anti-mutant activist who publishes his own anti-mutant propaganda newspaper and even leads a militia designed to track them down. It's eventually revealed that his militia has support from the FBI, which is the closest parallel to Bill's characterization in Brand New Day, using a government agency's resources to exploit his own anti-mutant agenda and further his own political aspirations. Throughout the 6 issues in which he appears, we come to learn that the character is spearheading an initiative called the Trenton Project, which involves keeping someone with a genetic mutation locked behind closed doors and utilizing their powers to make an anti-mutant weapon. This plan fails when Magneto turns up and hurls Bill into space. As a result, his militia crumbles without a leader to guide their efforts. So far, Tillman hasn't signed up for any future MCU projects, not that we know of anyway. But with Bill nowhere to be found after being right next to Peter during his attack, the door remains open for his return. The last we see of Bruce Banner is him being carried away in a stretcher after a Savage Hulk outburst. That freakout happened as a result of him being split from the inhibitor he was wearing during his lecture at ESU. Ruffalo hasn't been confirmed to play a part in any future Marvel projects. No Doomsday chair reveal for this guy. From a character perspective, that makes sense. Bruce will probably want to resume his quiet life as a professor after hulking out for the first time in years. On the other giant green Hulk hand, come on, he'll be back. That said, Peter taking the influence from his inhibitor to create a universal inhibitor designed to neutralize his non-human DNA will continue to have major consequences. Even before putting his plan into action, Bruce tells Peter that any device with this impact is tantamount to playing God. The world needs superheroes. This technology falling into the wrong hands would effectively neuter that. This argument is echoed when MJ sees Peter continuing to experiment with his universal inhibitor at Frank's place. MJ also warns about the grave implications of a technology that could control a monster, regardless of his personal justification for needing it right now. It doesn't fall into the wrong hands, yet. But the focus on the universal inhibitor feels like it's setting up a future obstacle for Spidey or some other MCU hero. We don't see what happens to Bill Miska, so we can't rule out that he managed to swipe one from the building before he made his exit. A device that could suppress all mutant DNA would be a big first obstacle for the new X-Men to face. Earlier in the film, MJ discovers the letter Peter had written to her, where he poured his heart out about their shared past he made the world forget. She believes him, but can't offer more solace than that because she doesn't have all the memories that made her fall in love with him in the first place. The picture she draws of Peter and Ned in their apartment shows she can picture that close friendship too, even if she doesn't recollect it. As Pete and Ned do their secret handshake, we see MJ return to the rooftop where she sat with Peter and Ned in No Way Home, while clutching the black Dahlia necklace Peter got her in Far From Home. Does she remember more than she's letting on?
Who do you think is actually watching these?
Maybe someone.
Okay, well, bye, someone.
It's an evocative end to their deeply emotional arc in this movie, but ultimately doesn't change where they stand. MJ knows that she's had core memories of the boy she loved removed, and she has the physical evidence that their relationship wasn't just a figment of Peter's imagination. By returning to a familiar spot, she's attempting to act on the same muscle memory Peter was hoping to trigger in Ned with the handshake. She could see that their friendship was very real, and this ending suggests she's open to exploring whether her feelings towards him could still be the same, even without the first-hand knowledge of their history. Tom Holland isn't officially signed up for any future Marvel projects that we know of, but he has said he wants to continue playing Spidey in the MCU.
I will do it for as long as they have me. So if this movie does good, I guess we'll see.
The emotional endings with Ned and MJ set up how their relationships will develop in a fifth Spidey solo movie, especially after Peter accepts that he no longer needs to do this on his own. The threat of the universal inhibitor is still out there. Someone could surely use it as a weapon against Peter after he rejected it to fight off the Hand here. The real setup comes in the post-credits scene though. Ned's Spidey tracker charts Peter disappearing from New York and arriving in the far reaches of outer space, which doesn't exactly hint at a continuation of his relationship arcs in the Big Apple. This could be revealing that Spider-Man will play a part in either Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, the latter in particular. In both comics versions of Secret Wars, a whole bunch of heroes and villains get thrown together on a distant planet called Battleworld. In the 1984 version of the story, a cosmic being called the Beyonder brings them all there. In the 2015 edition, it's Dr. Doom, who lords over Battleworld as God Emperor. Seems like Spidey may just be invited to the party.